Police officers of Reddit. What's the weirdest thing you've caught teenagers or kids doing that is illegal, but you found hilarious? I feel like a cop has a story about me and 2 other people. Here goes. I was 20 at the time, and at an outdoor party at a friend's. Late fall. 50 degrees or so. No leaves left on the trees. Roughly 50 to 60 people. Mostly underage. Most were drinking. My friend's parents lived in a nicer part of a bad area and owned an inflatable bounce house business. They had everything set up. A bounce house, sumo suits, massive slide, all sorts of drunken fun shit. Around 10:30 it's getting loud and the police show up. Someone yells cops, run, and everyone starts running. I decide to join the crowd and end up hiding in a bush with 2 people. Then, reality hits. I'm wearing a white hoodie. The guy next to me has on a neon yellow hoodie, and this girl has a fucking glow necklace on. The bush. Not a fucking leaf on it. Right then a cop walks up, starts laughing and asks, really guys, and shines a flashlight directly on us. He instructs us to head back to the driveway with the other captives, and gives all of us a pretty hilarious speech. Seriously? We are the Flint Police Department. We have a million things better to do, rather than chase down drunk minors. We had 2 murders just this week. We were just coming by to tell you to keep the noise down. Now we are pouring out all your beer, and calling your parents. Now we are even didn't give out any tickets. Just poured out all the beer, and called everyone's parents. Nowadays, I wonder if, in order to best serve and protect, the Flint cops would pour out your devil water and replace it with beer. Beer is the only safe drink. The Middle Ages all over again. I had a cop search my backpack once and found a couple of beers and a box of condoms. I was with my friends at the time, so he was like, why are there 3 beers, a box of condoms and 2 dudes? I was speechless. To be fair, officer, now there's 3. Raunchy music intensifies. Officer flashes a big ass grin. My brother was a cop who worked nights in Minneapolis. One snowy night near the UOFM campus he noticed a car weaving. So he pulled them over thinking there would be alcohol involved. Nope, it was a car full of deaf people having an argument which included the driver. He just told the driver to not sign and drive. That for sure is a real thing and scary as shit. I have hearing impaired friends that are horrible drivers, and of course they leave the dome light on in the car to be able to communicate at night, which doesn't help the cause. I mean, I understand it must be boring driving and not being able to listen to music. But shit, that's so scary when they try signing with someone in the back seat. Welcome to my world. What I do is 1. Only have convos at stoplights or park the freaking car. 2. Use headphones for music. The radio is unintelligible. 3. Keep your eyes open and on the road in the mirror. Never had an accident after 8 years of driving. My brother is a cop, and he told me one time he got a call around 9:30 in the morning for a suspicious person sitting in their car in a neighborhood. My bro goes up to him and asks what he's doing. Dude is waiting for his wife to leave for work so he can go back home and play WoW all day instead of go to his own job. My bro tells him to go wait somewhere else because he's freaking out the neighbors. Edit. To clarify a few things. The guy was parked in a different neighborhood than his own because he was hiding from his wife until she left the house. So nobody knew him, and it's obviously suspicious to be idling your car in front of some random house in a neighborhood while kids are going to school. It's not illegal, but he took the good advice to go wait somewhere else. Preferably more public, like a Walmart parking lot or something. Also, the dude was scared as shit that the cops were going to go tell his wife that he was hiding from her because he wanted to go back home and play video games. My brother of course doesn't give 2 shits about that. He just wanted the dude to go somewhere else so people would stop calling about it and causing him needless work. And yes, you can call the cops for any reason you want. It's a necessary but annoying part of a cop's job to go tell some oblivious man Bobby to wait somewhere else because they are disturbing the paranoid soccer moms who think they are going to nab their kids. I'm not sure who's weirder there, the guy who's got nothing better to do than poorly hide from his wife so he can play video games all day, or the neighbors who have nothing better to do than to look out the window all day. My brother was once jumping his bike off the end of the public boat dock behind the city hall, which also housed our police station. They had it tethered so it wouldn't get lost on the bottom. A cop came out, watched for a while and said, "I'm fairly certain something about that is illegal, but I can't figure out what, and it looks like fun. So be safe," and walked back inside. We had a ramp built off the end of our dock, with an old anchor rope tied to an old bike. There weren't a lot of local kids, but they all knew that we had no issue if they wanted to stop by and do some jumps, as long as they reeled the bike in and cleaned the mud off afterwards. One day a bunch of us were taking turns doing jumps and basically just fucking around at the lake when this cottage kid from down the road rides up on his brand new, very expensively tricked out BMX. He parks up on the road a few hundred feet away from us watching, then sees his chance and just fucking hurdles his way towards the ramp. A couple of people try to wave him off, but the kid just goes for it, nails it at a blistering fast speed, and goes flying 3 or 4 times faster than any of us could go on the tether. He pops up out of the lake waving his fists in the air, shouting and carrying on like he just stole an Oscar from Leo. He swims back to shore and everyone is just staring at him while he carries on. Eventually one of the girls just says, "Dude, was that a new bike?" The kid's face just kind of crumpled in defeat. We all chipped in and tried to find the bike, but our lake is flooded farmland and the bottom is 6 or 7 feet of quicksand like mud. We dove, we dredged, we poked with paddles. Nothing. Kid got in so much shit. I don't think his parents ever bought him another bike. I got a call about 2 kids, teenagers, smoking weed in their park truck down by the duck pond. You know the one. Anyways, I contacted them and they were very respectful and insisted on filming me on their cell phones while I spoke to them. I told them I wasn't interested in their weed, still illegal in my state, but I wanted to make sure they got home safe, that the driver was sober enough to operate the vehicle. I did basic FSTs on the driver and determined he was good to drive, all the while his buddy filming every movement and interaction. So I decided to have some fun. By the end of the evaluation I had the nervous driver doing the YMCA sprinkler move and a janky ass version of the robot before he finally realized what was happening. His buddy filming realized right away, and his defensive lawyer cameraman posture dissolved into a stoned kid that was now having a good time again. The driver broke down and busted up laughing before shaking my hand and hopping back in his truck. The cameraman gave me a fist bump and just said thank you in a way that I took as well. Good to know some of you are human. It's annoying that we have to live with a stigma that gets portrayed by popular media, and quite frankly some of us deserve it. But it's still nice to know when you get through to someone. I mean really alter their perception and break down a barrier put up by others. Cops are here to make sure people don't hurt one another. That's it. If you're going to hurt someone else, even if it's just a strong possibility, I'm your worst enemy. But if you're just swaying from societal norms that change like the weather and being yourself, have at it, man. You only live once. I didn't catch them, but when I arrived at my first station, after graduating from the academy, I was talking to some of the guys who had been there a while. I asked if they knew my cousin, who lived in that patrol area. Turns out they did. They had a call a few years back of some kids driving around, pulling up next to cars at traffic lights, and waving a huge dildo at the drivers, laughing hysterically, then driving off. They were pulled over, brought down to the station, and parents were notified. There was one old timer who was a bit of dick, telling me that my cousin was a pervert, as were his friends. But the other guys said they thought it was hilarious when it happened, and they never charged the kids with anything. I still mess with my cousin about that when I see him. What was the arrest/detainment for? Illegally waving a dildo? Most likely harassment, because several folks had their feathers ruffled by seeing such a thing and had called to complain. When I was a teen, living in the Phoenix area, we would fill up the back of a pickup with shaved ice from behind the ice rink and then build snowmen in people's yards. We would do it at night, before ringing and driving away. One time, a neighbor called the cops after hearing a group of teens sneaking around outside. The cop came by and found out what we were doing. Instead of getting after us, He told us to follow him somewhere. We ended up making a snowman in his own front yard. He rang the doorbell and hid around the corner while his wife came to the door, and then his kids came out. There are some good cops out there. Not all of them are like the ones shooting people without cause. There are some good cops out there. There are. And it is threads like these that give me hope that they outnumber the bad ones. Sadly, the good ones are rarely the ones we see on the news. The news is always negative, and it distills the negative happenings of an entire country down to a form that makes it seem like it's happening in your backyard. It's subtly disgusting to me. So I pull up on Unsav one night about 2 AM. Inside there are 4 teenage boys. The parking lot is pitch black. No businesses nearby are open, and they are sitting there with no lights on. I approach them and get several more units there quickly, cause some shit is about to go down. When enough of my peeps get there, we get them out of the car. They are unshakingly polite, respectful, and cooperative, and actually allow us to search their car and then their pockets. We find nothing, not even an odor of marijuana. After exhausting ourselves going through this car, I eventually cave and ask them what the heck they were doing, because I thought for sure they were up to no good, and I was coming up zilch. They had gone to the 7-Eleven and bought a big tub of trail mix. They were sitting in the car eating trail mix. They showed me the receipt for 10 minutes prior and half-eaten tub of trail mix. I told them this was the weirdest shit I've ever seen and apologized that I ran them through the ringer. They agreed that parking in a dark parking lot eating trail mix looks sketchy and didn't have hard feelings about the ordeal. I'm not a police officer, but a police officer approached me for this. Me and my high school GF at the time decided to spend all night hanging out and running around local parks and stuff. Lots of fun. We ended with breakfast and I decided to drop her off after. I was driving this tiny Nissan pickup truck with a bench seat. She wanted to cuddle, so she didn't put on her seatbelt and instead leaned across the seat and rested her head on my lap. Very sweet and cute. Minutes after leaving the parking lot, a police officer is following us and turns on his lights. She panics, sits up, and discreetly puts on her seatbelt. Once pulled over, the police officer, a young guy, comes up and looks in the window at her. "How old are you?" She says, 18, and he asks me to step out of the car. I think I'm about to get a big ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. Tells me I saw you driving kind of unsteady, and once I put on my lights, I see a young girl's head pop up through the cab window. So, I know why you're driving unsteady. I am in shock at the implication. I was your age not too long ago, and I get it. You guys like each other a lot. She's a pretty girl. You're just having fun. What I'm concerned about is that she's the proper age, and that other old school officers would nail you for public indecency / reckless driving / something like that. So I want you to make sure, in the future, you're wearing protection. Gotta stay safe, and concentrate on your driving when you're driving. Gotta stay safe. Okay buddy, go have an awesome day. I was speechless. Especially because about 10 minutes before, she and I actually did have a quickie in the parking lot that absolutely would have gotten us fucked over. TLDR, got pulled over for a caring talk about life and safe sex for BJ that didn't happen. Dispatched to a suspicious activity. Car parked on a residential street at night, cold as hell outside and rainy. Not sure what was suspicious, but complainant didn't want to be contacts. I find the car and pull up behind the same time a second unit pulls up in front, and we light them up. HMM. Don't see anybody in the car. Look around to make sure somebody isn't coming up on us. Nope. I look in backseat and see blankets moving. What the? Bang on window and finally a head pops up. Teen kid who didn't look to have a stitch on. Okie doke, by yourself naked in a car. Then hear a voice. Oh, someone else. He says yes, he and his girlfriend were having fun. Yes, they're both naked. Well, no biggie about them. She opens the door and bolts, buck naked, running between houses. We don't know if she has warrants or what, but no, she'll freeze to death pretty quick. I ask why she ran as other squad gives chase, but kid is as surprised as we were. This girl is a track star. We get 2 other squads involved, and after 20 minutes find her near frozen. in a storage shed. The reason she ran. She recognized my voice and knew me from church. The pastor's daughter. Nice. We told her she was stupid. Could have died. Got 4 squads involved. Etc. I never said a word to the other officers about who she was and never mentioned it after to her. Just smiled when I saw her every Sunday. Not illegal, but here is my go-to story. I was called to a residence where the complainant stated that her child from down the street had brought an item to their house and that she was at a loss. Upon arrival I made contact with complainant and she relayed this story. I was washing dishes and I looked out the window where all the girls, neighborhood girls between 6 to 9 years old, were playing on the trampoline. They were using a large rubber penis shaped device to hit each other. I ran out and grabbed it and turned it off. The kids had no clue what it was, and in their defense it was purple with sparkles and other inlays. Kinda pretty if not for the fact it was a 10-foot rubber dildo. Well, I secured the item in an evidence bag, and no crime having been committed I made a command decision to return it to the owner. I took it and rolled it up in said evidence bag in such a way it would unroll when held by the top. I then knocked on the dildo owner's door, and when she answered I snapped it down. Using my most curt cop voice I said, "Ma'am, your daughter secured your personal item and was accosting your neighbor's children with it about the face and neck. At this time your neighbor does not wish to pursue charges. However, I will need you to sign this evidence form. It was very detailed description, so I can return your personal item." I have never seen someone show so much embarrassment and humiliation as that lady did. She could not even speak or look at me. The best part was this other lady that was deeper in the residence that kept insisting on knowing what was going on. Dildos are just funny. Even the word dildo is funny. When I was about 11, we had a kid in our class who mixed up the letters B and D. Not mentally challenged, just slightly dumb, and we thought it would be hilarious to get him to write a story about the Hobbit. We were all in hysterics about the adventures of Dildo Daggins. But the teacher, female, mid-20s, was not. That was a fun little talk. I was part of the PPPAA, Triple PAA, Parking Lot Ping Pong Association of America. We had a quick mobile setup, rolling into well-lit parking lots and beginning to play. About midnight we get started in the Savmat parking lot one day. I worked here and know the manager. The manager comes out a bit after and recognizes me, asks what the heck we are doing. A short explanation later, he is playing too. Not only is he in, he is rocking 2 of paddles and beating us 2-on-1. He was about to be pro tennis back in his day before any injury. He kicks our asses. During the match a cop rolls up and inquires just what the hell is going on. My boss turns to him and says unless the owner files a trespassing complaint I'm the acting head, and this activity is sanctioned. Rather befuddled, the young officer returns to his cruiser. A short time goes by and several other officers show up. Most don't even exit their vehicles. They just watch. I can imagine Officer 1 upon returning to his car got on the radio with something along the lines of "You guys gotta come see this." It was a glorious night that I will never forget. Triple PAA at its finest.